Welcome to Day Zero. Welcome to Day Zero. Today we're doing with Lex. Lex is the founder of Chrome Temple. Chrome Temple is actually a very interesting business model. I think a lot of our listeners are going to be very interested about this, given that it's in cars. But interestingly, it's not cars as traditionally as I would have thought about it. It's actually about how you make money out of cars and a fund that you've created off the back of it as well for your eye for actually uncovering and sourcing rare cars and cars that you pick that go up in value. So just to kick us off, can you give us a bit of background about Chrome Temple and the origin story as well?
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for having me, firstly. The origin story, Chrome Temple. I was a modest collector myself. I was busy in another life, e-commerce and retail. And as an afflicted young male, I always grew up loving cars, as many others do.
Yep.
And I built a modest collection through my travels around the world. And I found in the small windows of time, to enjoy them, one would have a flat tire, a dead battery, no registration. So it turned into a frustration more than a joy.
Right.
And I kind of caught myself thinking, this is not how it should be. So the genesis of Chrome Temple really was around an automotive butler that I established with one of my good friends to help people with collections manage, access, buy them, sell them, store them, insure them, all the kind of menial tasks involved in this passion of ours. And as we set that up, I suppose I'm a bit of a horizon gazer, looking at what was happening structurally in the world of automotive with European emissions ever constricting and its impact on simple supply and demand.
Yeah,
essentially supply diminishing, demand expanding. Humans, you tell us we can't have something, that's exactly what we're going to want.
Yeah.
And so we saw an opportunity there. Well, how about a fund, a private equity style investment fund? So that really was the genesis back then, I suppose, scratching an itch in terms of operational support, then looking at this community of people that really had no home or community beyond flicking through social media or going to Bunnings at 5 a.m. on a Sunday morning. There's an opportunity here for a financial product, but also a community to bring like-minded people together. Because I saw as skiing, sailing, tennis, golf, you name it, all these hobbies had a home and a community, but cars was very fragmented, and they're all kind of culminated into an opportunity. So packed up previous endeavors and focused entirely on this.
And so we'll come to community, because I think community is a really interesting thing that we talk about in our business as well. We'll come back to that in a second, but I'm curious as to what was the first car you bought and how did you decide, okay, I'm onto something here. I know I can make money out of this. Where did that start?
Well, I think there's two moments, if you'll allow me to.
Yeah, cool.
The first one really was in my previous life. I was involved, founded a business that listed, and there was severe volatility in the value, the prescribed or determined value in those share prices.
Yep.
Sometimes the breeze would blow or someone's perspective on a report, and I had this volatility. When I looked at my garage, rock solid, real, tangible, fully insured. And so that was, I suppose, maybe the first genesis. As a diversification in a wild world, cars are a pretty strong thing, and they were going up in value as opposed to down. And generations before, it was always a downward slide. But for those earlier mentioned reasons, you picked the right car. The second point, I suppose, when I identified this opportunity was I convinced my wife, very clever analyst, who risk averse and very sharp on numbers, convinced her to roll her superannuation in with mine. And then we bought 3 cars: a Lamborghini Diablo VT, a beautiful car, a rare AMG, a numbered car, and a rare Ducati. And that, I suppose, was the petri dish for the first fund. It was our case study. We ran it. Year one was up 30%, had it externally audited.
Wow.
And then use that as, I suppose, my pitch to go and then build a board, an investment committee, and then launch from there. That's nearly 5 years ago.
Wow, well done. And so how much are funds under management now?
Well, still modest, 15 million. We're hoping it's very local and very organic. It still feels like a 5-year-old startup, but it feels like we're at the bottom of the hockey stick curve for expansion.
And in our world, or the buyer's agency world, one of the biggest things that you're always struggling with, or people, it's not struggle, but it takes a lot of time, is sourcing. And how do you find something that fits the brief of whether it's the financial metric you're chasing, the yield, capital growth, whatever it might be, with that, and talking about what you're talking about before, supply and demand. Supply is down in real estate, which is demand is high, but there's nowhere to actually put them into. How do you go about sourcing these cars and finding these cars globally?
Well, I'm sure it's very similar. It's black book, we call it. I'm sure you call it the same. It's building and nurturing relationships. And, two key KPIs I watch, obviously, is our uplift, financial uplift, but also is the phone ringing. Are we being offered supply? Are the right collectors reaching out to us going, hey, I have a car that may be of interest? Now, either to be put into the fund or put into one of our community members, and really grooming that black book of automotive art, we call it. There's cars, and there's cars that have transcended being cars really into artworks, and that's our corner of the room.
What are some of those cars that have transcended?
Wow, there's lots to put me on the spot, but the globally relevant cars I talk about, stuff where they're ideally numbered, so there's a stamped number on them with a clear lineage of provenance, celebrity ownership, its story. Because at the end of the day, it's an emotional investment. Yes, there's engineering and there's scarcity. If you talk property, it's like waterfront properties. Scarce, diminishing. You might have some blocks rolling into one, so your supply is shrinking. Same in cars. They're being crashed. There are too many kilometres put on them. Catch on fire. There's all these reasons that your supply cannot expand. A bit like waterfronts. And then demand, as the world gets richer, and the world is getting richer, the demand for that one-upmanship. There's all these kind of similarities in our worlds of why demand expands on a finite or diminishing supply pool.
There's so many different questions I could ask you. What I'm curious is, what's the most rarest car that you're proud of that you've been able to find?
Wow, that is a good one. We found a very special McLaren P1. Now, there's 375 of those made in the world, which might sound like a lot, but it's not. And that's one of the Holy Trinity cars. Ferrari did one, Porsche did one, McLaren did one. I found one in the Midlands of the UK, tucked away with 88 miles on it, 12 years old.
Wow.
The last one ever made. So it's all, and the provenance file is about a foot deep, and all of these kind of ticks as to why that car is extremely special. Yeah. And that car, I've stood where it was built in Woking in the UK. Famously, no phones, no documentation, very IP tight space. But on the last one, they dropped their guard, and every build station, they allowed a photograph of the car and the team together.
Right.
So that makes up part of this this book that makes that car pretty special, pretty rare. Yeah. There are other rarer cars with less build numbers, race cars. One of 4 we have. One of the Gibson Motorsport R32 GTRs. The nerds will know what that is. Special car with an immense heritage and lineage as well. But as we scale, that we kind of narrow in on the rarer it is. Ironically, the less volatile it is, and the more upside there is in those as well.
So looking at the science of cars and how you go about an investment thesis on what's going to be a good car, because you're taking a forward look, a view back of the past to look at predicting future performance of how that car is going to go up in value and a variety of different things. What are some of the key things that you break down to think about what's going to make a good investment as a car?
Yeah, it's a good question. So quite literally, I shouldn't tell everyone this, but I have to change when I get back. The password to our internet is results before romance. So we're data-led. We have a full-time analyst. She cares naught for cars. Couldn't tell you what most of them are. But what is the data telling us on a global view? So the early mentioned aspects that drive value there. So we'll lead with that. It's not with the heart. Whilst we're passionate about them, that's the art and the science balance, but we lead with science. So scarcity, we look at what we call a J curve. And because we're in this privileged time, I suppose, with European emissions, and there's this transition that car to art, as I mentioned earlier, what are the factors around what drove depreciation, reappreciation? How far do we think it'll go over what period of time on a typical J curve? Where do we buy? Where do we sell? So like any investment, it could be an equity, a home, a warehouse, whatever it might be. There's an investment case. So I, with the help of our analyst, put together a case to our investment committee. Here's all the factors, the science, the emotion we kind of all share and understand. But what are the emotional factors, I suppose, driving that demand? So there's an investment case for every vehicle, and it's science led.
And because it is something that people are enthusiasts and there's a community that sits in behind it. Talk to us about the new centre that you're opening in Chrome Temple, and it's a bit of a lifestyle asset with a variety of different things going on inside of it that I'd love you to explain. And also around the brand and the story that you've built and how you kind of inject community, not just financials, not just a good return, but also the right people to the fund that understand and are passionate about the space that you're in as well.
Yeah. Going backwards from where the community is everything. Whilst it might look like it's about cars, the financial performance is, but it's really about people, community. And as mentioned earlier, it's, I think, and I haven't really got the data, but I think it's the biggest passion in the world. The love of the automobile is the biggest passion. It's quite intrinsic, particularly in males, but not exclusively. Before some kids can walk, they're pushing trucks around. It's in there. So a huge hobby with no home.
Yeah.
I mentioned golf, soccer, skiing, all those. There's clubs for those like-minded people. And the local yacht club, to us, I found out the other day, has 84% of its members don't own a boat.
Really?
But they come together and they socialise, they do business, they form friendship, they form professional networks, all these things that opportunities for us as well. And we're seeing it already.
Yeah.
And we're young, but we have a good database of quality people, and they're doing business. They're going on holidays together. All these things that we dreamt of.
Yeah.
But yes, it's about making money out of cars. But let's face it, we're spoiled for ways to make money. So it has to be a strong financial return and a strong emotional return I talk about. So it needs to be both and neither in exclusive.
Yeah, it's interesting. And it's like the same thing. Like our business is now, we started in March. One of the things my background was in technology. So usually you lead with what you already know because you've got a strong bias towards it, which is lead with the technology. That's the thing that people will care about. And they care about it, but it probably sits number 3. Number 2 is marketing and brand. Number 1, we've actually identified is brand and community together.
Yeah.
And how you build the community around the people, the lifestyle of what you're creating and the culture that sits within it that becomes this momentum that builds off the back of it. And it's been simple things like our team, they're real estate people, so they're passionate about property, but they're also passionate about how they get better as individuals, how they get better as professionals. So we've formed things like the fast forward crew that in the morning they wake up, everyone has to post a photo where you're out walking, exercising or doing something to promote a healthy and better lifestyle. And it's just kind of fed off there.
Yeah, cool.
And now people want to be a part of that stuff. And why is because they're chasing a feeling, because we're human at the end of the day. You want to be a part of something bigger and something greater than yourself as well. And
absolutely, couldn't agree more.
And it's interesting with the cars, you've got this passion that everyone can be formed around, but it's how you harness the energy that sits within it to give someone a feeling that wants them to come back and do business at Chrome Temple again.
That's right. The love of the car is a commonality, the thread, but people crave that connection. We're through social media, we're never more connected, but so many of these people are lonely. And I've had people say, like, this community is everything to me, it's quite rewarding when you see people come back. So we've got a cohort of people that.
And is that a reason why you've decided to invest into the Chrome Temple, into the new centre? Is that played a big role in it?
I missed that part of your question, sorry. But yeah, absolutely. Again, that becomes the home. So originally we wanted to build a large home for Sydney in Artarmon. But in looking at a map, there's a lot of Sydney where there's collectors and enthusiasts that are at least an hour away. So, I might love you, but I'm not going to come down an hour each way to watch the Formula One or jump in a simulator and do a few laps. So the concept quite quickly evolved to satellites. So we have a series of them across Sydney.
Got it.
We become the strata manager of sorts. We manage the building, your collection, buying, selling, storing, events. We're associated with a private racetrack. So we can facilitate all those, not just the operational support of owning cars, but the social elements of it as well.
Yeah.
And it's a minefield for a lot of these people. They're either busy or prepared for a lot of, all the elements of looking after these. And to the butler I mentioned, the original genesis, said, well, let us take care of all that. We do it all day, every day. We're hunting cars. We understand importing, exporting, movements, risk, all these kind of things. So why can't we then share those learnings with our community.
And the fun side of it, the other side.
Yeah,
of
so that's the fun. And then so these become a home, right? Hence the name temple, really. It's a tongue-in-cheek on a place of worship, really. Like-minded people coming together.
Yeah.
And that commonality is the love of internal combustion. Now, it doesn't matter if it's a Ferrari or a Mini. If you love cars, you're one of us. So it becomes our temple, our place, and we want to build them all across the country. And we have global aspirations as we evolve the fund from a wholesale fund into a retail product.
Yep.
Fractionalization is something really at our genesis as well. So part of that sharing, I suppose, with the community isn't just for wholesale wealthy investors. The true purpose, and we all have purpose, is to be able to share that love of ownership, of access, the thrill of the chase, the data, the touch feel with the aspirant as well. You know, we had an event recently where that P1 I mentioned, a photographer captured a photo of a kid, 6, 7, 8 years old.
Yeah.
Shouldn't say 6, 7.
Yeah.
7 or 8 years old. And he hands behind his back looking into this P1, and you couldn't see his face or emotion or anything, but you could just tell his whole world had changed right there.
Yeah.
Looking at this thing going, you know, what a thing of beauty. I've never seen one. He may never see another one again, the way the world's going.
Yeah.
Right. They're getting tucked away, and as they get more valuable, they get hoarded. So part of our purpose really is to give that kid a path to ownership, not from $100,000 north, but from $100 north.
Yeah.
So he could buy a fractional. And the technology's there, and we've been preparing that whole 5 years we've had the fund for this moment. It's the next 6-9 months we'll have this fractional product where that kid or a big kid like myself or you, I might gift a fraction in that car. Now that'll open up that joy of ownership, the disciplines and the skills required to understand when to buy, when to sell. So there'll be a tradable token, right? The blockchain-led token. And then there'll be events tied to that. So be it at racetracks or temples where periodically you could come and see your asset and get that joy.
Yeah.
Not just the financial uplift, but that whole joy of ownership. I suppose that I've been lucky enough to enjoy over my years.
Have you found anyone else that's doing anything like it?
No one really mad enough.
No,
in the COVID years, I researched to the wazoo every passion asset: whiskey, watches, wine, luggage, art, all of them, and obviously cars. I found a couple of car funds, the wealthy guys really doing it in a structure, most of them privatized, nothing that I suppose had the ambitions to do what we're doing. So bring it right down to the aspirant, not just the wealthy collector, because wealthy guys can do it themselves anyway. Yeah. So it's that diminishing path of access or ownership for the aspirant that we see the opportunity, both financially and I suppose in a way of sharing that you know the luck I've had in access to cars. So no, there's a couple of chaps in the UK doing syndication per car. Essentially, it's an IPO per asset, but no one with the liquidity, the trading platform, the access, the events. That's all part of our master plan.
What's the most peculiar location you've found a car that was extremely rare or valuable that was just a head scratcher as to out the back of someone's garage? Or
look, as you asked that question, one jumps to mind. I went to the middle of Tasmania to pick up that rare AMG that I mentioned in my Genesis fund, my self-managed super fund. And I'll never forget it. And it was middle of Tassie, lovely bloke, drove his car up, never forget his face standing there, shoulders down, watching me drive away. And I got a text not long after going, I've made a terrible mistake. But yeah, that was a great one of 32 AMG Black Series. But that was, I could never find that place again if I tried, I reckon.
Yeah. And what's in your personal collection, what's your car you're most proud of? What's like the jewel in your personal collection?
There's a Porsche GT3 RS, a 997. So last of the manual 3 RSs. So if you know cars, that's their track focus car, roll cage. It's black with orange wheels and it's the perfect mix of new and old. It's still quite analog. You run over a Smarty on the road, you'll feel it in your hands, probably even in your bum. So it's a bit of a billy cart. Where the new cars are, they're amazing, but they're very tech led, and the computer's driving it as much as you are. But in the old girl, it's all you.
Amazing. And coming back to community and the fund, How do you kind of get the balance right between the team you're hiring, getting the composition of the team that you're bringing in? Are you looking for people that have that enthusiasm that's got to kind of wear the brand on their sleeve? Or are you looking, and I think you mentioned it before, people that are not necessarily from cars, but have the right capability to help you on the journey of the business that you're building? How are you trying to work through that?
Hey, but the people are everything. You know this. You've built businesses. The opportunity is amazing. The tech's available. Everything, the ingredients are there. But if you don't get the people right, and I've been really lucky. Partly lucky because it is a space people are so passionate about. The team I have are amazing. There's a couple inbound that are equally amazing, and they will be big, huge contributors to the success I know that we're going to enjoy. So I'm lucky there. It really started. The business started as a passion. I've never worked harder. It was meant to be a passion project, but never worked harder. And the people in there probably could say the same. They've probably never worked harder, but they love it. And you mentioned, I have a yardstick. Would I be proud for them to have my brand on their shirt? And all of them, absolutely.
It's a good one. I like that one to do, which is like, ask yourself the question, would you be proud if they got it on the sleeve? Yeah. The one we've been asking ourselves is, do you see yourself working with this person in 10 years from now?
Yeah.
As well. Like we, in our last business, and I think you can write, and I'll go into a question I want to ask you about it, but, we never wrote down values. We just lived them. And in this business, it's more people heavy. Than just it's technology, but it's also people as well. And we actually sat down and said, actually, let's define the culture and what the values are up front of the business and what we stand for. And then it'll probably make it easier to identify the people and whether they align to the values of the business so that we can build on the basis of it, because we're a national brand out of the gate. What's some of the advice and some of the things that you've been intentional on in starting the business? You're a second-time founder. What have you done and learned from the last business that you've carried forward into this one?
Wow, there's a lot there. The first one that jumps to mind is alignment. In the previous business that listed, there was a strong misalignment in terms of accountability, shares in the business. So all of our directors are stakeholders in the fund, all of our staff, investor. There's true alignment with ourselves and our investor, which naturally bright sides so much opportunity for, I suppose, conflict. That was definitely absent in the first one. Let me ponder on that.
Do you think
there's lots in there?
We're doing it too. Like we've had our key employees and foundational employees, if you call them that, we call them more like partners and business partners. But them investing, they show up differently.
Absolutely.
They think about things differently. They're there as a business partner, and strategically, they care about every nut and bolt as much as you do as well, regardless of whether they own 1% or own 5% or 50%.
Yeah.
I think that's been a big learning for us this time around, is like making sure you've got the people that not just who are good for right now, but as the business evolves, and I'm sure you've seen this from your last business, of like someone who can help you at 5 people doesn't necessarily evolve into a person that can help you at 50 to 100 people. Usually that's a different skill set, different capability that comes with it.
Yeah.
But finding the people that can go the distance with you and see the vision and also have the capability to do it over time as well has been a thing we've tried to identify and find. Because as you know, like when you're a startup, you can't have the person that's at 100 people, because they're not going to come and sweep the floors and do the things that you have to do at a startup level, versus the person who's at 100 who's probably used to just managing a team of 50 with a budget of X million, et cetera, as well. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, you got to wear, we talk about wearing 5 to 10 hats. You got to have the ability to do it and the hunger. And I think to your points is there's alignment emotionally, but also, financially, but emotionally as well. The people who we look for, people who take pride in their work, who are eager to build legacy, who believe in our purpose. I ran through a bit earlier. Yeah. Is that something, that their kids would be proud of, or their friends? There's more than just a clock punch, because there's plenty of ways to punch clocks. I don't look for clock punches, not because I want to squeeze more out of them, but I want, succession as well. I want them to want my job.
Yeah.
I can't do it forever.
Yeah.
I'm getting old fast. All that kind of stuff. People who are really proud and want to build legacy, like I do with my kids. I want them to look at it and go, the old boy built that or helped build that, and all of our stuff are pretty similar in the sense that they they work harder than me. They take pride in it, and yes, they see a path to financial, but also emotional and pride. I think that's important too, is you want their fingerprints on it.
And to wrap up, what would be some advice that you would give to a founder who's just started out? Let's say it's day zero, they're just starting out in their business, or maybe they're 6 months in. What would be some wisdom or advice you'd give to people?
It's lonely doing it on your own. Be it a partner or a mentor or something. Don't be afraid to and think you have to be so proud to make all the decisions yourself, because you won't get them all right, and you shouldn't get them all right.
Yep.
The old saying, fail fast, learn quickly.
Yep.
That's definitely a good one that
we live by that one too.
I frequently think about that.
Yep.
Have a swing, but don't be afraid to let your guard down and ask for help. There's lots of people out there willing to help.
Yeah, I think the asking for help is a massive one. Like, it's amazing when you actually start going around and chase the bouncing ball of just asking for help and reaching out to people people are pretty willing to help you if you let the guard down and say, I've got this problem, I don't know what to do. They might not have the answer, but they might refer you to someone who does.
Well, that's right. And people proud to help.
Yeah.
If you ask someone help, then you're vindicating the value you see in them, and that, their chest can puff up. They'll go out of their way to help you. And you're mad not to.
Yeah, totally.
Mad.
Totally. Well, Lex, mate, thank you for coming on. It's certainly an interesting business model, and well done on all the success. I know you're only a few years into it, or 5 years into it, but we're excited to see what happens.
Thanks, Gus. Thanks for having me, Matt.